to be our next president of these United States. Yes. Yes. Wow. The silent majority has spoken, baby. Yes. Spoken. Don't get it twisted. That's right. Now listen, he gonna put that wall up. Yes, he is. He gonna build that wall. He gonna build it. And he gonna build it tall. He gonna build it tall. And it's gonna protect us all. It's gonna protect us all. We don't want this country to fall, do we? No, we don't want it. Build that wall, Donald J. Trump. Build that wall.
2 Corinthians 6:14-16. Do not be yoked together with unbelievers. For what do righteousness and wickedness have in common? Or what fellowship can light have with darkness? What harmony is there between Christ and Belial? Or what does a believer have in common with an unbeliever? What agreement is there between the temple of God and idols? And with that in mind, let's take a look at some people who love Donald Trump and see if there's any traits they perhaps have in common.
Barack Obama had a big part of 9/11.
Which part?
Not being around, always on vacation, never in the office.
There's no time for vacation. We're not going to be big. We're not going to be big on vacation. If you're at the White House and you have so much work to do, why do you fly? Why do you leave so much? Why? You think you'd want to work, straighten it out, get it done, fix it up, make it great, and then when you finish, you can be proud.
In 8 years as president, Barack Obama took 29 vacations, which cost us $96 million. In 3 years as president, as of August 2019, Donald Trump has taken 12 vacations, which has already cost us $102 million. Bush took 88 vacays at $140 million, and Clinton took 41 at $128 million. More recent stats show that in Donald Trump's first 1,167 days in office, he took 245 golf trips. So, why am I so hung up on Trump's trips? Oh, you mean you don't remember?
I love golf, but if I were in the White House, I don't think I'd ever see Turnberry again. I don't think I'd ever see Doral again. I own Doral in Miami. I don't think I'd ever see many of the places that I have. I don't ever think I'd see anything. I just want to stay in the White House and work my ass off, make great deals, right? Who's going to leave?
There won't be time to go on vacations. There won't be time to go golfing all the time.
I'm not going to play much golf because there's a lot of work to be done. You need leadership.
Yeah. You can't fly to Hawaii to play golf. I don't know where the president was. He wasn't very far away. Maybe he was playing golf.
Obama, it was reported today, played 250 rounds of golf.
Obama went golfing every day. Let Obama go play golf every day.
Obama plays more golf than professional players on the PGA Tour.
Played a lot of golf. He's played more than most PGA touring professionals play. More than a guy who plays on the PGA Tour plays.
PGA Tour.
Plays more golf.
Plays more golf.
PGA Tour.
PGA Tour.
I mean, this guy. Golf. More. Learning how to chip, learning how to hit the drive, learning how to putt. Oh, I want more.
If you become president and you go to the White House, why would you want to leave the White House? When you're in the White House, who the hell wants to play golf? Who wants to leave the White House? How the hell do you leave for 3 weeks to play golf?
If I get elected president, I'm going to be in the White House a lot. I'm not leaving. I'm going to be working for you. I'm not going to have time to go play golf, and believe me.
Yeah, that was one of his biggest complaints about Obama. And Trump said he would never do that if he were president. But of course, he did. And at a much higher cost to you and me. There's also the little tiny fact that these trips were taken to his own golf courses, which means the money that was used to pay for his golfing, our money, your money, my money, is going directly into his pocket. So not only is he a hypocrite and a liar, but he's also a thief who's profiting off his own presidency, which, gee, sounds like something that should be, oh, I don't know, illegal? Oh, that's right. It is. Actually, It's in the Constitution, if I'm not mistaken.
It could be AIDS.
What makes you think she has AIDS?
Way her husband used to be.
So you think Bill had AIDS?
Yes.
So how did Bill Clinton get AIDS?
Probably messing around with Magic Johnson.
That's the natural conclusion?
Yeah.
Give us updates. We're and he's going to call us with updates.
Yeah. Okay, it's supposed to say no to socialism.
It does say no to socialism.
But you didn't spell it right.
What?
It's not spelled right.
Do you have a marker?
No.
Oh.
Wait, what is socialism?
There is a definition. I can look it up really quick. Let me get the definition for you.
Tell me just in principle. Don't tell me the dictionary.
Okay, so socialism, it's basically like the views of Hitler.
Adolf Hitler was actually a member of the Nazi Party. Nazism is a form of fascism, both of which are far-right political groups. Socialism and communism are far-left groups, and basically the opposite of Nazism.
It's the in-between, it's like between communism and, I don't know what the other word is, but it's like the median between two views, between communism and another view, but I don't know exactly what that is.
It's important to believe in, to have respect for everyone's religion.
So you respect Christianity?
I do.
Judaism?
Yes.
Islam?
No.
These extreme nations, they don't treat women with respect.
We treat women with respect here.
Yes, we do.
That's an American ideal.
Yeah.
Tell me about your shirt. Well, what's it say?
It says, Hillary sucks. But not like Monica.
Hilarious. So we were talking about treating women with respect.
It's an American ideal that we treat women with respect.
You got to give me the back of that shirt one more time. That's too much fun.
Trump that bitch!
We don't even see the irony in it. I love it, right?
My president comes on the TV and he lies to me. I know he's lying. He lies all the time.
Look, friend.
I don't believe any one of them, not one. I believe Donald.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I'm telling you, he says what I'm thinking. Exactly.
President Trump has crossed 10,000 false and misleading claims.
So many claims.
Look, friend.
I don't believe any one of them, not one. I believe Donald.
Mm-hmm.
We review every speech,
every tweet, statement,
White House events, cabinet meetings, campaign rallies.
Really everything he says.
We list all possible factual claims that he has made.
And then we evaluate them, and if they're false or misleading, we add them to our database.
Of course, every president says things that are false or misleading.
Most modern presidents have one big false or misleading claim that is inextricably linked to their time in office.
Well, now you're going to hear the facts from a White House source, and you know my name.
Some are more memorable than others.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
That the Iraqi regime continues to possess and conceal some of the most lethal weapons ever devised.
They'll see that if Americans like their doctor, they will keep their doctor. And if you like your insurance plan, you will keep it.
I've already started building the wall. We built large sections.
But President Trump doesn't just have one. He has nearly 300 claims that he's repeated 3 or more times since taking office. And some of those claims he's repeated literally hundreds of times.
Oh, come on. 10,000 lies, really? How did they even count that? And secondly, did they do that with all the other presidents? Yeah, because I bet they didn't. I'd like to see all the numbers on that. Let's see how many times Hillary Clinton has lied. A more lengthy analysis found that about 33% of everything that Barack Obama said was false or misleading. For Trump, it's 71%. 71% of everything Donald Trump has said to the American public since 2015 has been false, meaning a lie, or misleading, meaning when you purposely say something that's not the truth so that people think something else. And that's not even counting the statements he's made that were merely half true. The same analysis found that only 5% of what he says is completely 100% true. For Obama, that stat is 20% truth, and for Hillary Clinton, it's 24% truth. Hillary and Barack did have a higher percentage of half-truths, though.
Look, friend.
I don't believe any one of them, not one. I believe Donald.
Including the building of the wall, which we started, but we should build it at one time.
Hundreds of billions of dollars.
We lost $500 billion.
300, 400, 500 billion dollars a year. Billion!
And for years, we were losing a tremendous amount of money.
We're losing a lot of money.
It's the biggest tax cut in American history.
This is the largest tax cut in the history of our country.
The biggest tax cut, biggest reform of all time.
That's false.
Trump doesn't even get past what Obama did.
Trump's tax cut is the 8th largest in the last 100 years.
I believe Donald.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Trump made nearly 3 times as many false or misleading claims in his second year than he did in his first. Almost a quarter of these claims were during campaign-style rallies, and nearly a fifth were about immigration. And what Trump talks about fluctuates based on what's happening in the news.
The most recent numbers I could find from this same team were 16,000. Apparently, Trump has lied over 16,000 times since being president. That averages out, by the way, to apparently about 22 lies a day.
Barack Obama is a Muslim. He's a terrorist. Nobody will ever tell me different. Do I have proof? No. Do I have articles? No.
But your mind is made up without any information.
My mind is made up.
And what's your source?
Just Facebook or Twitter. I mean, everything. And
So you'll look at like facts and bull, you'll put it all together.
Exactly.
Okay, fine. So there's a portion of Trump supporters who are ignorant, woefully uninformed, and, well, to put it politely, not very intelligent. But there's got to be some Hillary supporters like that too, right? Well, yes, of course. I mean, they're humans, right? But the problem is, there's also these people.
Hail Trump! Hail our people! Hail victory!
This is Richard Spencer. And if you're wondering who he is, well, I'm glad you asked. The high-profile white supremacist was born in Boston and grew up in Dallas. He attended the University of Virginia and received a master's from the University of Chicago. He studied for a doctorate at Duke University, but never completed it. Spencer coined the term alt-right in 2008. In 2010, he went on to found AlternativeRight.com, which has been blasted for supporting white supremacy. From there, he went on to lead the National Policy Institute, or NPI. The institute produces papers about racial differences in intelligence and crime rates among Hispanic immigrants. Spencer has publicly called for the removal of African Americans, Hispanics, and Jews from the United States. We'll help them go somewhere else, he said. I'm not a maniac. According to Mother Jones, Spencer believes Hispanics and African Americans have, quote, lower average IQs than whites and are more genetically predisposed to commit crimes, unquote. Spencer was put into the spotlight because of his support of Donald Trump. In October 2016, he spoke to Mother Jones about his relationship with Trump advisor Stephen Miller. Quote, I knew him very well when I was at Duke, but I am kind of glad no one's talked about this because I don't want to harm Trump. Yeah, this guy still works for President Trump, by the way. And he got caught promoting white nationalism in his emails.
No one will honor us for losing gracefully. No one mourns the great crimes committed against us. For us, it is conquer or die. The mainstream media, or perhaps we should refer to them in the original German, Lügenpresse.
Or perhaps we should refer to them in the original German, Lügenpresse.
Lügenpresse, German for lying press, is a German political term used largely by political movements to describe newspapers and mass media as a propaganda tactic to discredit a free press. The Nazis would use this tactic during World War II against the Jews Trump also used this tactic while running for president. His term was fake news. Maybe you've heard it before.
It's not just that they are leftist and cucks.
A cuck is a derogatory slang term for a man who is desperate for acceptance, approval, and affection from women. This desperation has led to the compromise of his beliefs and values, the desecration of his dignity and self-worth, and his inability to stand up for himself and what he deserves as a human being, e.g. loyalty, fidelity, and honesty in a romantic relationship. It comes from the term cuckold, which is a man who willingly encourages his wife to have sex with other people because it brings him pleasure. So yeah, essentially it's supposed to be the modern day equivalent of calling a guy a pussy or a fag. The problem is, most of the time it's generally used by people like Richard Spencer, who are either giant racists and white supremacists, or who think that men are inherently better than women and that women need to be slaves to men's desires.
It's not just that many are genuinely stupid. Indeed, one wonders if these people are people at all. Or instead, soulless golem.
In traditional Jewish folklore, a golem is a magical creature typically made from mud or clay. Golem are often typically used in stories as protectors of the Jews from people who would try to persecute them. He's using this term to be purposely offensive to Jewish people. It's an anti-Semitic wink to the audience.
Animated by some dark power to repeat whatever talking point John Oliver stated the night before. To be white is to be a striver, a crusader, an explorer, and a conqueror. We build, we produce, we go upward. And we recognize the central lie of American race relations. We don't exploit other groups. We don't gain anything from their presence. They need us and not the other way around. Within the very blood in our veins as children of the sun lies the potential for greatness.
Children of the Sun is a reference to this symbol. It's called the Black Sun. It's a symbol used by neo-Nazis, white nationalists, and alt-right groups. It was used in post-war Germany to signify Nazism.
That is the great struggle we are called to. We are not meant to live in shame and weakness and disgrace. We were not meant to beg for moral validation from some of the most despicable creatures to ever populate the planet. We were meant to overcome all of it, because that is natural and normal for us. The press has clearly decided to double down and wage war against the legitimacy of Trump and the continued existence of white America.
Wage war against the legitimacy of Trump and the continued existence of white America. White America.
But they are really opening up the door for us. America was, until this past generation, a white country designed for ourselves and our posterity. It is our creation. It is our inheritance, and it belongs to us.
But wait! There's more!
We go to the birthplace of the Ku Klux Klan and to the home of one of the Klan's most famous former Grand Wizards, David Duke, who happens to be running for Senate in Louisiana and says he's getting a boost from Donald Trump's rhetoric.
We're
at the home of David Duke.
I'm not going to trust this coming from a media man. I'm just joking.
Former Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, now a candidate for the U.S. Senate from Louisiana.
I'm kind of like Trump. I think the media, overall media, not every media, you might not be too
I'm a
bad.
nice guy.
You might really
We're
be
nice
bad.
people.
I don't know whether you're bad or good. We have a media that is absolutely a war with the white people of this country.
We have a media that is absolutely a war with the white people of this country.
Lügenpresse.
It's
At war with the white people of this country?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Duke has shed the Klan robes and closed the KKK store. Nowadays, he's a Republican.
Hi, this is David Duke. I'm sorry I missed you.
Duke has piggybacked his campaign on Trump's in robocalls like this one.
It's time to stand up and vote for Donald Trump for president and vote for me, David Duke, for the U.S. Senate.
Some of the new hats that people have been demanding.
He's selling hats for Duke and Trump and other campaign merchandise, too.
Very popular shirt.
What do you like about his message?
His message is the message of middle America, saving our heritage in this country. The only people, the only race, the group that a candidate can't say positive things about are white people.
And yet, last time I checked, except for the current office holder, every single president we've had has been white. 90% of the Congress is white. 90% of the CEOs are white.
Because you're white doesn't mean you support the interests of white people. There's a lot of treason in Trump.
Treason?
Treason against your own heritage, your own values, your own children.
Racial treason, you're saying?
Well, you can call it whatever you want. The immigration issue, to me, is the most vital issue. Because if the massive immigration continues, the majority of the American people are going to become outnumbered.
The white people are going to be outnumbered.
Yes, that's right. We're going to be outnumbered, and we're going to be outvoted in our own country.
Thomas Robb was Duke's successor as leader of the Knights Party of the KKK. He's supporting Trump, too.
This is our table here of various things that they brought.
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas. Somebody's got a sense of humor.
It's popular Christmas time. Donald Trump does express a lot of viewpoints that we've been talking about for many years.
Such as?
Such as the immigration, building the wall. 2 examples. Majority of white people are supporting Donald Trump.
I know plenty of white people who aren't.
Well, sure, there's plenty of white people that aren't.
You see that as betraying their race?
Yes.
This is a race war. A war between Americans and aliens who live among us.
We're for white people, and we want illegal immigration stopped. That's basically it.
The Robs are convinced Trump is bringing them into the mainstream.
He is helping to legitimize our message.
He is helping to legitimize our message.
Ready?
Okay.
And yet, the day ends with a forlorn little parade.
Last night, a mob scene in New Orleans after the former KKK leader and current U.S. Senate candidate squeaked into a debate on a black college campus. David Duke is one of Donald Trump's biggest and least welcomed fans in Louisiana. Duke is barely getting 5% in the polls, but it was enough to get him on a debate stage and voice his admiration for Donald Trump.
I will be Donald Trump's most loyal advocate to make sure his nominees go to the Supreme Court.
Says racist groups of the past have gotten new life, like it or not, from Trump.
I think from
says racist groups of the past have gotten new life, like it or not, from Trump. I think from
Reports of attacks come as demonstrators across the country protest against Trump's victory.
Look at this.
They've blasted his campaign rhetoric about immigrants, Muslims, and women.
Look at this.
In one school, the children shouted, "Build the wall," in front of their Hispanic classmates. They are referring reportedly to Trump's plan to close the U.S. border with Mexico.
White power!
One of the largest hate groups in the country is planning a victory parade for the president-elect. As Donald Trump prepares to move into the White House, the KKK is preparing a celebration parade in his honor. According to the Anti-Defamation League's website, the Loyal White Knights of Pelham, North Carolina is one of the most active Klan groups in the United States.
Are you a neo-Nazi?
Do I embrace it? I don't try to push it away.
Well, you're wearing a swastika on your shirt.
Exactly.
And you've got swastika flags. Why the flags? Why the shirt? Why these hateful symbols in this town?
I don't think they're hateful. I think it's an ideology that has been completely misinterpreted since the Third Reich.
Okay, now I've got to stop you.
Like I'm a Holocaust
misinterpreted.
denier.
I'm a Holocaust denier.
Misinterpreted. 6 million Jews were killed.
You'll never sell me on that.
I'm not trying to sell you.
Yeah.
It is reality. It's history. It cannot be denied. Daniel Burnside is a lightning rod of discord in Ulysses, Pennsylvania. Population 690. With the help of the internet, his message has spread far and wide, giving his town attention it does not want.
Rural America spoke up when they elected Trump. Rural America.
And by rural America, he means white America.
We're staring down the barrel of a gun here in white America. There's still 193 million white Americans. Yes, the vast majority of them are in their 60s and 70s, will be in the ground in the next 20 years, and therefore we have the possibility of becoming a minority in our own country. A possibility.
It sounds to me
of becoming a minority in our own country.
Like you're afraid of being me. And being me,
this is my country,
is great. This is also my country.
You guys didn't win the culture war.
He invited us on his property to talk, but when he doesn't like our conversation, he explodes.
Get the out of here now!
We do. There are families in this county that blame politics for people like him sort of being able to come out and be very loud. Is that fair?
Our president we've got right now hasn't helped the situation a whole lot. You know, he's done a lot of the same beliefs. You know, at least he won't speak against them, okay? This guy feeds off that stuff.
So what happens when neo-Nazis, the KKK, and white supremacists feel empowered by their country's leader?
Jews will not replace us! Jews will not replace us! Jews will not replace us! Blood and soil! 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 Whose streets? Our streets! 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 I'm one of you! White lives matter! White lives matter! White lives matter! You got mace, man. Hey, we need first aid!
You got mace?
Yeah.
By who?
By commies.
When Trayvon Martin case happened, you know, Michael Brown and Tamir Rice and all these different things happen, every single case, it's some little black asshole behaving like a savage, and he gets himself in trouble, shockingly enough. Whatever problems I might have with my fellow white people, they generally are not inclined to such behavior, and you know, you got to kind of take that into consideration when you're thinking about how to organize your society.
In Oklahoma City.
Okay, so exactly, you have to go back to Oklahoma City to talk about a white act of terrorism,
Elliot Rodger,
right?
Dylan Roof.
Okay, so now you've managed to name 3 people, and I'm pretty sure Elliot Rodger wasn't explicitly white, by the way. But the thing is, you remember the names of white bombers and mass shooters, okay? Yeah. Can you tell me the name of all 19 hijackers on 9/11 off the top of your head? You can remember Dylan Roof's name. You can remember Tim McVeigh's
white
name.
People were capable of violence.
I didn't say capable. Of course we're capable. I'm carrying a pistol. I go to the gym all the time. I'm trying to make myself more capable of violence. I'm here to spread ideas, talk, in the hopes that somebody more capable will come along and do that. Somebody like Donald Trump.
Somebody like Donald Trump.
Who does not give his daughter to a Jew.
This is legend. Back up on the steps! Back up on the steps! What the fuck? I should pour it on my face? Yeah.
What just happened?
They maced me.
Who?
I don't know. Communists.
It's the second time in 2 days.
Second time in 2 fucking days.
Hey man, they're afraid of you. You got too big.
Fuck!
Hell can't well. Hell can't well.
Hey, water drink. Water drink. We're here obeying the law. We're doing everything that we're supposed to do, trying to express opinions. And the criminals are over there getting their way. And that is a foundational problem with our society. And whatever you think of my opinions, that's going to be something that puts you in danger.
Yeah, and that is because this city is run by Jewish communists and criminal niggers. That's exactly what it is.
So you're the truth. You're the truth.
And that is because this city is run by Jewish communists and criminal niggers. That's
Non-violent protesters.
I'm not even saying we're non-violent. I'm saying that we didn't aggress. We did not initiate force against anybody. We're not non-violent. We'll fucking kill these people if we have to.
We're not non-violent. We'll fucking kill these people if we have to.
We had speaking permits.
Say hello to your two
They wouldn't
bosses.
even let us hook up our microphones and our speakers because they don't want our speech because we're telling the truth. We're talking about the ethnic cleansing of America and the destruction of the American way of life and a new Bolshevik-style society with no freedom of speech in this country. That's really where we're going in America, and that's got to change. See y'all later. We will be back.
Our streets! Our streets! Our streets! Our streets!
I don't know how many people are hurt, but there are people on the ground being treated by the medics. Were people running up the street screaming and crying. There's many people on the side injured too. It's a really horrific sound.
Came down the street at 80 miles per hour to fucking hit us just now. There are people, bodies laying on the ground right now. We told city council we did not want them here. They let them come. We told the police we did not want them here. They let them come. I had to jump out of the way or I almost got hit by the car my fucking self. I seen bodies flying from getting hit by that car. I see people and blood on the fucking ground. This is my town. We did not want the motherfuckers here. And now we got bodies on the ground and they trying to revive somebody right now.
Horrifying scene in Charlottesville as this car plowed into a crowd of people. The driver then backing up, and witnesses say dragging at least one person.
It's barreling towards the protesters. I jump out of the way, I scream, car!
3 cars involved in the chain reaction crash, killing at least one person. That's when he went right through the crowd. Yeah. Brennan Gilmore and Chris Mahoney took video of the moment of impact. He took aim at the crowd?
Yeah, I mean, it was a very narrow street, and he sort of slowed down and then just slammed into them very, very hard.
It happened 2 hours after a planned protest billed as Unite the Right.
Hey, there's that black sun symbol we just talked about earlier.
Happened 2 hours after a planned protest billed as Unite the Right was shut down by police at a nearby park. Hundreds of white nationalists, some wearing what appeared to be uniforms, carrying weapons, Confederate flags, and Nazi symbols, clashed with counter-protesters. The rally originally meant to protest the city's decision to remove the statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee, but it quickly turned to chaos.
You
will not replace us.
Unite the Right organizer Jason Kessler live streamed this video.
Look, we're being gassed now. The Charlottesville Police Department is allowing people to come in here, gas us. They won't allow us into the event, even though we had a permit.
If you do not disperse immediately, you will be arrested.
Police stepped in, a massive presence, clearing the demonstrators from the area, declaring it an unlawful assembly, the largest deployment of Virginia State Police in nearly 3 decades. Tensions began simmering last night when white nationalists carried torches in the city, eerily reminiscent of Nazi Party propaganda events in the 20s and 30s. Today, President Trump responded to the violence.
We condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence on many sides.
The mayor of Charlottesville also weighed in, saying he is brokenhearted and urged people to go home.
The man charged in the attack is being held without bail and is waiting for the court to appoint an attorney to represent him.
Those who know him remember a child who used racial slurs and was fond of Hitler. Derek Weimer was Field's high school history teacher.
He loved Hitler and he loved, the Nazi movement. They were all, geniuses and the whole white supremacy thing, that white people were dominant.
As a young teen, Field's wheelchair-bound mother called 911 multiple times. Records show he allegedly threatened her with a 12-inch knife and on another occasion hit her. Fields, who's now the focus of a federal civil rights investigation, grew up in Kentucky but moved to Ohio with his mother a year ago. In 2015, Fields joined the Army but lasted only 4 months due to a failure to meet training standards.
Okay, so at this point, maybe you're thinking, but I'm not racist, or, but Donald Trump isn't racist, or maybe you're even thinking, just because a bunch of racists are saying Trump inspires them doesn't mean he actually does. And look, I'm not saying you are racist. I'm going to assume you're not. I'm not saying Trump is racist. I actually genuinely believe he probably isn't. I'm not even saying Trump is trying to inspire them. It's definitely possible that he's not. It's like this. If one crazy person says they're inspired by you and does something bad, then that's just one person, no big deal. But if multiple crazy people do multiple bad things because they think you're okaying it, well, then it's probably time to think about what it is you're saying that's making them think that. Maybe you should change what you're saying and start saying something else. Or maybe, at the very least, you should make it clear to them that you actually don't feel that way. What you shouldn't do is say, well, there was bad people on both sides, because that is not going to solve it. That's just going to further make them think they're correct. Now, there were 2 other deaths at Charlottesville, but they were cops in a helicopter that crashed, so I guess they don't count. I wonder, though, have there been any other incidents since Trump was elected that might perhaps support the idea that he inspires racists to do bad and violent stuff?
The FBI has just in the last couple of minutes released its hate crime statistics for 2017.
So CBS News security analyst Ron Hosko is in Washington now. He's a former assistant director for the FBI. And Ron, you've been taking a look. You didn't have a lot of time to take a look at this the latest statistics here, but you've been taking a look at the study. What stood out to you sort of on first glance?
Well, a couple of things, Anne-Marie. First, that it looks like for at least the second straight year, there's another jump in the number of reported hate crimes.
It looks like for at least the second straight year, there's another jump in the number of reported hate crimes. My rudimentary calculations say a jump of over 15% over last year, that continuing ascent. But I tell you, one of the things that stands out is really what's, even though the hate crimes, reported hate crimes are broken down here by the FBI, other religious groups. But what's worth noting here is what's missing. So about, I think, 11 of our civil rights. I think they also recognize, first, we all have First Amendment freedoms, and by and large, we are free to hate. We are free to spew hate.
Okay, but that's just vandalism, intimidation, and assault. That's not deaths, right? Well, according to a January 2019 report by the Anti-Defamation League, there were at least 50 extremist killings in the U.S. in 2018, 49 of which had links to right-wing extremism, which means white supremacy groups, the KKK, and neo-Nazis. Okay, fine, racist groups might be a problem, but what has Trump ever actually said that they could misconstrue as agreeing with their racism? Well, for starters, he said this after the Charlottesville incident.
You had some very bad people in that group, but you also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
That were very fine people on both sides. That were very fine people on both sides.
Some bad racists? Very fine racists? Surely you can see why an actual racist might misconstrue this to think that Trump likes them, right? Anyway, there's also these.
On Confederate monuments. Sad to see the history and culture of our great country being ripped apart with the removal of our beautiful statues and monuments.
And why is that so wrong? Well, to understand why, you'd have to know about the lost cause myth.
Every 50 years or so, we seem to go through a racial upheaval in this country. 50 years after the founding of this country was the Missouri Compromise, which just sort of kicked the slavery can down the road until the ultimate clash in the 1860s, the Civil War. But it obviously didn't end there. 50 years later, in the 1910s and 20s, was the golden age of the KKK. This is when most of the Confederate statues that we're arguing about now went up. Another 50 years went by and we had the Civil Rights Movement, with Martin Luther King, the Black Panthers, and the Confederate flag. Before the 1950s and 60s, the Confederate flag wasn't really a thing. And here we are again, 50 years later, with Black Lives Matter and neo-Nazis. So how the heck did we get here? Let's make one thing clear. This wasn't some spontaneous grassroots demonstration. This was a planned rally by white supremacists and Nazis. Yeah, technically they're not Nazis. They're not members of the German National Socialist Party. So fine, they're wannabe Nazis or neo-Nazis. It doesn't matter. When you do things like this and carry flags like this, you're a Nazi. And they weren't just some fringe group that showed up uninvited. These were the guys who got the permits to hold this rally. So if you were there to just defend our history, as soon as you saw those flags, you should have walked away. But I also really enjoy this meme because yes, there is a Lenin statue in Seattle, but the people there have been complaining about it since it went up. But it's on private property, so it's much harder to take down, unlike the Lee statues, which are on public property. And that's part of the problem. These statues went up in public places mostly in the 1910s and 20s, during the heyday of the KKK, as signals to black people to know your place, or at least that's how they saw them. As I said in the beginning of the video, 50 years later during the Civil Rights Movement, the Confederate flag became a thing. Obviously it existed during the Confederacy, but it disappeared for almost 100 years. And as you should know, this isn't the Confederate flag. This is. This is the stars and bars, so what the heck is this? It's the Confederate battle flag and naval ensign. Similar to this, actually. Do you know what this is? It's not just the top corner of the US flag, it's the naval ensign, or it was until 2002. It's what was flown on the back of ships to tell everyone that this is an American ship. If a picture tells 1,000 words, then this says a lot more than just the Confederacy. It's a symbol of what the Confederacy stood for. And no, not states' rights. Slavery and white supremacy over black people. There's a reason why the neo-Nazis were walking around looking like this. That's a Nazi flag. Pretty easy to figure out what it is and what it means. I don't really know what this flag is.
That's actually the old Norse symbol for Thor's hammer. White supremacists use it as a symbol a lot. The Nazis used multiple Norse symbols before them. They believe that the perfect Aryan master race, white people, came from the Vikings, so they stole their symbols. That's where the white supremacists get it from.
But this seems a little out of place if it's just a symbol of states' rights next to the Nazi one. This used to be a Hindu symbol for thousands of years. Then some jerk in the 1930s used it and changed its meaning for everyone forever. If I were to get a tattoo of this and try to tell people that it was just a symbol of good luck, nobody would believe me. So even if, up to this point, you believe that this flag is just a symbol of states' rights or Southern pride, that's not what it means anymore. Some jerks have taken it and changed it. It's just plain racist. And if pictures say 1,000 words, then a 3D statue in a public place says 1,000,000. It's not just a monument to the person, it's a monument to what they stood for. This is a statue of William Wallace. If you saw Braveheart, you know that he also lost. But that's not why he has a statue in Scotland. It's because he's a symbol of the Scottish national identity and fought against English tyranny. So what is a Confederate general statue for? If you said the Southern identity, you need to ask yourself what that means. Because unlike the Scottish, the Southern identity is rooted in racism. Thinking that the Civil War was over states' rights or Southern pride is part of the lost cause myth. I've mentioned it a few times in the past, but I've never really explained it. I'll put a few links to blog posts down below of people who grew up believing in the lost cause, one of which is by Rhett from Rhett and Link. If there's enough interest, I'd be happy to make a video about it, but it's a myth. A Robert E. Lee statue is a monument to the Confederacy, which stood for slavery, white supremacy, and little else. That's why these statues have become neo-Nazi holy sites, and I really wish I was exaggerating. But that's what last week's rally and many upcoming rallies are centered around. Look, we all thought that this sort of racism was long dead and gone, or at least a small fringe. We were wrong, and in our ignorance they've gained strength and convinced people from the middle to at least quietly support their cause by saying that it's to preserve history or defend freedom of speech.
On Confederate monuments, sad to see the history and culture of our great country being ripped apart with the removal of our beautiful statues and monuments. On NFL players, get that son of a bitch off the field right now. Out. He's fired. He's fired.
So a black man does a silent and non-violent protest on TV specifically in order to bring awareness to black issues, a rise in the number of unarmed black men who keep accidentally, quote unquote, being killed by police. And the President of the United States, not your Uncle Bobby Wayne, mind you, not a group of old men at the coffee shop at 6 a.m. talking about politics, but the President of the United States not only spins the whole thing into an issue of patriotism, disloyalty to the nation, which it's very clearly and explicitly not, but then, to make it worse, goes on TV himself, calls the black player a son of a bitch, and then says he should be fired. And you can't see any reason why a person who thinks black people are inferior beings would think that that was awesome.
On Puerto Rico, they want everything to be done for them when it should be a community effort.
So the President of the United States is complaining to victims of a natural disaster after 1,400 of them just died that they aren't helping the government help them enough. The potentially racist part, though, comes in when you realize that the place and people Trump was referring to are American citizens. Yes, they're a small island of brown people that don't speak English, but they're still American. Don't you get it? They are us, not them. That's not to say that there is a them. There's not really. But even if there was, Puerto Ricans are not it. So again, there just happens to always be something in what he says, a little nub of some sort, hanging down so that all the racists can attach their mouths to it, suckle, and say, see, he's just like us. I mean, it's almost as if it's planned. Like, I don't know, maybe he's doing it on purpose, you know? Oh, but I'm sure that later on when the South got hit by a hurricane, he acted the same way, right? No, he didn't. He was accommodating and polite. He even complimented them on Twitter. Well, now I guess that's another nub now, isn't it?
At a White House ceremony honoring Native American war heroes. You were here long before any of us were here, although we have a representative in Congress who they say was here a long time ago. They call her Pocahontas.
Hey, Native American war veterans, welcome to the White House. You guys, you Native American war veterans, you helped us win World War II. We couldn't have won it without you. Because, you know, you developed that secret code that the Nazis couldn't break and that no one could break because it was such a unique code. It was in your language. You know that code that you developed. Thanks. You helped us win the war. So I'm going to thank you for helping us win the war by reminding you of how, you know, like how you used to live on this land before it was America, because, you know, you're the original inhabitants. So like, you know how you were here for like scientifically at least 12,000 years as far as we know. Well, before we were here, and then like 300 years ago we came here and we stole it from you, and now everybody thinks of it as a white place because we've said it's a white place and they forget all about you. You know how that happened? Well, crazy story. You guys aren't going to believe this. There's a senator who works with us. Yeah, she thinks she's one of you guys. Can you believe that? Can you believe that crazy person? She thinks she's also a person who lived here for a really long time. Can you believe that? What a crazy person. We even have a nickname for it. It's hilarious. Her nickname is a famous historical Native American that American society has turned into a fake Disney cartoon who talks to animals and sings about the colors of the wind. And that's our nickname for her. A real historical figure who did something significant that we don't ever actually acknowledge, that we turned into a kid's cartoon. That's our nickname. I mean, you find that funny, right, Native Americans? You find that hilarious, right? That I'm making jokes at your expense while bringing up a history that you don't really want to think about because it's really awful and terrible and we almost completely genocided you. You find that funny, right? That we've lied about her for, oh, well, as long as she's existed and turned it into some romance story with a guy that she was never with. You find that as funny as I do, right? Well, then you're really going to enjoy this.
This was said in the Oval Office by the President of the United States. And to make matters worse, that portrait that you see there over the man's head here on the right, that's a portrait of Andrew Jackson, the 7th President of the United States.
So what's the big deal about that? I mean, Andrew Jackson was a president, right?
President Andrew Jackson has a complicated legacy. On the one hand, he was a populist hero and a venerated war general. On the other hand, he was a slaving genocidal maniac who drove the economy into the ground like a meteor shard. Today, we're talking about Old Hickory, President Andrew Jackson. Before we get started, before he was a politician, Andrew Jackson was a military officer. And during the War of 1812, Jackson was shot in the arm. The cure for bullet arm in those days was to chop off the whole thing and throw it in the nearest trash can. But Jackson wasn't having that. Jackson sought out a more holistic solution among the Cherokee, and it worked. And with that, Andrew Jackson went on to protect the people who generously saved his arm beneath the presidential mantle, providing them with civil rights under the law and ushering in an age of peace, harmony, and culture. Just kidding. Instead, 1 year into his presidency, Jackson authored one of the most twisted moments in American history. He signed the 1830 Indian Removal Act.
The 5 tribes that were removed by the government were the Cherokees, the Creeks, the Chickasaws, the Choctaws, and the Seminoles. Now, of those 5 tribes, I personally am Cherokee, Chickasaw, and Creek. And I have relatives that are Choctaw and Seminole.
He signed the 1830 Indian Removal Act, which made it okay, legally, for the government to snatch native territories and herd residents westward into a new Indian colonization zone, which is government speak for internment camp. The ICZ was distinct from the U.S., so its people enjoyed no protection under the law. That zone is now called Oklahoma, home of Garth Brooks. Now, under this act, the U.S. Army supposedly couldn't force indigenous peoples to hand their lands over, but the U.S. Army has never been good at not stealing from Native Americans, much like Andrew Jackson. The first tribe to follow the trail, some double-marched in literal chains as if armed escort wasn't enough, were the Choctaw. one of the 5 civilized tribes who adopted European customs to make their twitchy American neighbors less uncomfortable and still lost their homes. The Supreme Court actually found that the state had no authority to pull this nonsense, but Jackson didn't let that bother him. The forced march, made without food or supplies, claimed 4,000 lives. All told, over 70,000 Native Americans would be uprooted from their homes and driven westward to diminish, dwindle, and die. Jackson was a man of many monikers. Political opponents called him King Mob for his ability to rile the electorate into a frothing ball of violence, and his election campaign was based largely in his being an experienced Indian fighter, a career that earned him the name Sharp Knife among the Cherokee he routinely slaughtered. Yeah, it wasn't a positive nickname. After bitter fighting during the Creek War, Jackson oversaw the Creek tribe's terms of surrender. The terms were brutal. The Creek people had to surrender about 23 million acres of their land, which encompassed more than half of present-day Alabama and part of Georgia, to the federal government. And then we had the Seminole War, the left sock of America's dirty laundry. Before Jackson got involved, Florida belonged to Spain and was home to a coalition of former slaves and Seminole Indians, an alliance that freaked Southerners out so much that they routinely sent armed posses of kidnappers over the border. Under secret orders, Jackson sent the U.S. Army into the Sunshine State, aiming to take it by right of conquest and crush the Indians and former slaves there. He ordered his men to raise crops, abduct women and children, and deploy attack dogs. After the war, he proudly wrote to his wife, "I think I may say that the Indian War is at an end for the present. The enemy is scattered over the whole face of the earth, and at least one half must starve and die with disease." Good job?
So, yeah, when you invite Native American war heroes over to the White House, people who saved your butt in World War I and II with their own language, a language, by the way, which the American government forbid them to speak by threat of sending them to boarding schools and crap like that. How about when you invite those people over, you don't completely disrespect and humiliate them and go against everything that you're bringing them there for in the first place by putting up a picture of the president who screwed them more than any other in American history? How about you just take that down for the hour? It's not that difficult. And I'm sorry if I sound condescending. I'm not trying to be on purpose. But dear God, people, you guys are supposed to be older than me. You're supposed to be wiser, and yet I'm having to explain this to you. And I'll tell you, the most pitiful part is that I have family members sitting in the audience right now that are also Native American, obviously, who don't know this, who aren't aware of this, because they don't even know their own history. They don't even realize that the only reason we live in Oklahoma, the only reason we're from Oklahoma, is because the government forced us to move there.
Why are we having all these people from shithole countries come here?
Shithole countries.
Democrats are the problem. They don't care about crime and want illegal immigrants, no matter how bad they may be, to pour into and infest our country like MS-13.
I mean, do I really need to explain this one? That, really racist people have been saying infest when they talk about immigrants for ever?
She is a low IQ individual, Maxine Waters. I said it the other day. Honestly, she's somewhere in the mid-60s. I believe that.
The Institute produces papers about racial differences in intelligence. According to Mother Jones, Spencer believes Hispanics and African Americans have, quote, lower average IQs than whites and are more genetically predisposed to commit crimes, unquote.
I think allowing millions and millions of people to come into Europe is very, very sad. I think you are losing your culture.
Okay, come on, that's really blatant. So Trump said that Europeans are losing their culture because of immigrants. Why does that sound so familiar?
Donald Trump does express a lot of viewpoints that we've been talking about for many years.
Such as?
Such as the immigration, building the wall.
This is a race war. A war between Americans and aliens who live among us.
We're for white people, and we want illegal immigration stopped. That's basically it.
The immigration issue, to me, is the most vital issue. Because if the massive immigration continues, the majority of the American people are going to become outnumbered.
The white people are going to be outnumbered.
Yes, that's right. We're going to be outnumbered, and we're going to be outvoted in our own country.
Again, the foreigner residing among you must be treated as your native born. Love them as yourself, for you were foreigners in Egypt. I am the Lord your God.
I think allowing millions and millions of people to come into Europe is very, very sad. I think you are losing your culture.
1991, in a book. It's called Trumped, by former Trump casino executive John O'Donnell. Donald Trump said, quote, "Black guys counting my money? I hate it. The only kind of people I want counting my money are short guys that wear yarmulkes every day. Those are the kind of people I want counting my money. No one else." In 1989, Trump took out this infamous full-page ad in 4 New York City newspapers demanding the death penalty for what he called, quote, "roving bands of wild criminals." This is in the wake of the rape of a white female jogger in Central Park. 5 Black and Latino teenagers were wrongfully convicted of the crime and later exonerated. Yet Trump was still insisting on their guilt in 2016.
A well-educated black has a tremendous advantage over a well-educated white in terms of the job market. And I think sometimes a black may think that they don't really have the advantage or this or that, but in actuality, today, currently, it's a great. I've said on occasion, even about myself, if I were starting off today, I would love to be a well-educated black because I really believe they do have an actual advantage today.
I want him to show his birth certificate. I want him to show his birth certificate. There's something on that birth certificate that he doesn't like.
Oh, my God. I brought it up just routinely, and all of a sudden, a lot of facts are emerging, and I'm starting to wonder myself whether or not he was born in this country.
I would like to have him show his birth certificate. And can I be honest with you? I hope he can. Because if he can't, and if he wasn't born in this country, which is a real possibility, if he doesn't, it's one of the greatest scams in the history of politics.
And remember, he asked for the college records, too, on top of that.
Remember this fella? Okay, well, his name is Daniel Burnside. He's a white nationalist who leads a white nationalist group in Pennsylvania. He said during this interview that the membership for his group has doubled since Trump got elected in 2016. After showing this, the news anchor would then lead 2 people, a Trump supporter and a college professor, in a debate as to whether or not things Trump says and the way he says them inspires these types of people, and this is how that went.
It is absolutely enabled by the president. It's exhausting watching this, you know? You have a president who normalizes white supremacy, normalizes anti-black racism. Even if he doesn't echo what this guy says, he creates an environment where that stuff seems okay, and that's how he feels. So it's not that he creates racism or white supremacy, although he may nurture it, but he makes an environment where you can say it out loud, which only creates more danger for other people. Not just abstract danger, not just theoretical danger, but real life violence.
Amy?
Yeah, listen, Aaron, I mean, that piece made me sick too. I mean, it made me uncomfortable. I don't like it, and I understand why the people feel the way they feel about the guy that lives in their community. But you can't blame this on the president. He has nothing to do with this. I mean, we are in an environment right now where everybody is overstimulated. It's a 24-hour news cycle. There's 24/7 social media, and it's like a pressure cooker. And people need to take a step back and decompress and get away from politics a little bit, because this is not healthy for us to be always at each other like this. I mean, when you sit most Americans down at a table and talk about issues, we agree on most things, Aaron. But because of the 24/7 and the social media, it's everybody's at each other all the time, and we need to stop.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
I hear your point.
Wait,
and
but hold on.
Go ahead.
This is okay. So if we're blaming social media and we're blaming the 24-hour news cycle, let's look on social media. Who's the biggest tweeter out there? Not Kanye West, Donald Trump. Let's look at the 24-hour news cycle. Who's the biggest story on every news channel? Donald Trump. If we blame rap music, if we blame music, if we blame movies, if we blame culture, we blame everything down to the Teletubbies over the last 30 years. How can we not look at the fact that the biggest pop culture figure, the biggest media figure, the most powerful man in the world is Donald Trump, a man who has said there are good people on both sides at a white nationalist rally. Someone who says that Judge Carrillo's Mexican identity makes him incapable of being impartial.
So, Amy,
somebody who has said that.
I want to play some of this because, Amy, I think this is the question. I want to say Burnside himself, the man that everyone watching found sickening, you included. He told the Washington Post that since November 2016, activity has doubled among his neo-Nazis. Okay, so he's putting Trump's inauguration as the date that was important to him in terms of getting followers. And when you hear that other gentleman say the president won't speak against him, he's got some of the same beliefs. Amy, this is what he's talking about. Mark referenced some of it, but let me just play some of them and give you a chance. I'm going to play them right now. Here's the president.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people.
We're building a wall. He's a Mexican. We're building a wall between here and Mexico.
If you are saying he can't do his job because of his race, is that not the definition of racism?
I don't think so at all.
I think Islam hates us. Look at my African American over here. Look at him. Are you the greatest? She is a low IQ individual, Maxine Waters. I said it the other day. I mean, honestly, she's somewhere in the mid-60s. I believe that.
Amy, do you really think that doesn't embolden neo-Nazis, white nationalists, racists?
Aaron, it doesn't. Why would it embolden them?
Why would that kind of language embolden racists?
I mean, I think that's ridiculous. Look at Antifa right now. They've amped up their activities. They're attacking the right all over the place. I mean, is that the president's fault or is that the media's
Her brain is literally searching for a place to put the blame that's not the obvious logical conclusion.
fault? Whose fault is that? I mean, it goes both ways. It doesn't make it right. Donald Trump is not a racist. And what is happening here is that people want to throw that racist label at him because they don't want to talk about the good things he's doing right now.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
People want to throw that racist label at him because they don't want to talk about the good things he's doing right now.
Because he's saying racist things.
But these are straw men. First, no one said it's Donald Trump's fault. Also, this conversation isn't about Donald Trump being racist. The question is there a relationship between what Donald Trump's doing and how these people are feeling? The most compelling piece of evidence is that white nationalists are saying, yes, Donald Trump makes us feel better and stronger and safer and more confident. Yes. They're saying that the day that they can mark their origin story of getting stronger is the day he became president. And then when you add the laundry list of things he's said and done that they approve of, it goes to prove that he is strengthening their position. Now, we can have a different conversation about whether or not Donald Trump is racist, and we could have a different conversation about the red herring of Donald Trump making the world better, which you were about to go into. But the point here, right now, is that Donald Trump makes these people feel better and safer and stronger, and everything he says and does is in line with their agenda.
What do you say to that, Amy, that the man there, that neo-Nazi, said, I can tell you with certainty that since November 2016, activity has doubled?
The man there, that neo-Nazi, said, I can tell you with certainty that since November 2016, activity has doubled.
He is crediting the election of Donald Trump. He is the neo-Nazi.
He is crediting the election of Donald Trump. He is the neo-Nazi.
I mean, you know what? I don't know that that's true.
I mean, you know what? I don't know that that's true. I mean, you know what? I don't know that that's true.
I mean, so he's saying it. What I do know.
I mean, so he's saying it. What I do know. I mean, you know what? I don't know that that's true. I mean, so he's.
I mean, you know what? I don't know that that's true. I mean, so he's saying it. What I do know
but
is
he
that
feels
Donald
it,
Trump
Amy. Doesn't that matter? Isn't that what emboldens a racist and a hateful person? He's crediting the president.
He has no control over who supports him and who doesn't. I mean, he can't tell people not to support him, and he certainly can't go out there and micromanage these groups and communities across the country. I mean, what he's trying to do is, wait, can I finish? I let you talk, Mark. Let me talk. What you don't want to talk about is that African-American approval numbers for Donald Trump have doubled in the past month, from 15% to almost 30%. I mean, that's the thing, because he's creating jobs. The economy's back on track. He's doing doing exactly what he said he was going to do. And that's a big story. But instead, it's like, squirrel, look over here at this. I mean, this guy is nobody in a little town of 650 or 690 people in a nation of how many millions? I mean, he's no one. And just putting it on the news is only giving him advertising. I mean, that's what...
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
I mean, that's what we're doing,
There are
is
massive
advertising.
rallies planned for this weekend by neo-Nazis.
What's that?
There are rallies. There are people who are coming out. This is not something that happened before,
Aaron,
Amy.
I mean, what are we going to do? I can't stop that. It doesn't mean I'm
not saying you can. I'm simply saying, do you acknowledge that the President of the United States is part of the reason? He said there's good people on both sides. I don't know how you can't acknowledge that. You may want to say he's not a racist, but you got to acknowledge that he has empowered these people to hear their voice.
What is happening is that everybody tries to throw the racist label at him because there's no way to, I mean, how do you push back against that? You can't totally debunk it because you can't prove what's on somebody's heart. That's the problem. And so...
Okay, so I'm actually glad she brought this up. You can't prove what's on someone's heart. That gets said a lot about people who do bad things. But the Bible is actually very clear about this. Luke 6:45 says, "A good man brings good things out of the good things stored up in his heart, and an evil man brings evil things out of the evil things stored up in his heart. For the mouth speaks what the heart is full of." Proverbs 27:19 says, "As water reflects the face, so one's life reflects the heart." Matthew 6:21 says, "For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." So we can see, according to the Bible, a person's words actually directly reflect what's in their heart. And what's in their heart reflects who they really are as a person. It doesn't get much more clear than that.
When you can't win on the
just admitted
facts,
we can't
on
totally
the
debunk
economy.
it. I mean, that's a horrific thing to have to admit about a guy that you support.
No,
Isn't it?
I can't totally debunk that he's not a white supremacist.
He's not a racist. He's not a white supremacist. I mean, that is ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it, I mean, we can disagree on that. I don't think it's ridiculous. When you call the countries in Africa blank hole countries.
Shithole countries.
When you say Judge Curiel's Mexican identity makes it impossible for him to be impartial.
He's a Mexican.
When you refer to Mexicans as rapists and thieves.
They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. They're rapists.
When you go over and over down, when you go to a white supremacist rally or hear the news of a white supremacist rally and say there are good people on both sides.
This egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence on many sides.
There aren't good people at white supremacist rallies. The fact that he said that, again, awful. The fact that he would not denounce certain people
let me
is
ask you
awful.
a question, Mark. Let me ask you this. If he's a racist, then why did he just grant Alice Johnson clemency when Barack Obama wouldn't?
Okay, see, this is a false equivalency. Mercy/compassion isn't the test for whether or not someone is racist. Nice try, though. Mercy is just a natural human emotion. It happens without control. For example, we often put dying or sick dogs to sleep out of mercy. That doesn't then mean we consider a dog to be equal to a human being. You can think a black person is not a real human and still give them mercy. Also, black people aren't the only non-white race. So her entire argument is absolutely ludicrous.
I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Okay, so to clarify, the problem is not whether or not our president is a racist. It's whether what he says can be interpreted by those who are racist as agreeing with their views. It's important because, well, because he's the freaking president of the United States. He's got some amount of influence over our country, whether we like it or not. He's supposed to be our leader. I don't care if my favorite comedian is inappropriate. I don't need my plumber to be a brilliant conversationalist. But I don't want my doctor stopping my surgery so he can get on Twitter and call Mexican immigrants an infestation. My God, to people, this shouldn't be that difficult to understand. When a racist tells you that what you're saying agrees with them, and then you look at what you're saying and realize it has a lot of the same type of language that they use, then you change what it is you're saying. You don't double and triple down, then give a half-hearted denouncement of their actions. You don't pretend not to know who David Duke is and refuse to disavow him so you can get all his voters to vote for you. Because pandering to racists in a vague way just to get their support is morally worse than actually being racist. Pandering in and of itself can be harmless. It's cheap and dishonest, sure, but it really depends on who you're pandering to and why. The way Donald Trump does it is blatant manipulation, the kind a smarmy car salesman would use to get you to buy a car. And, well, we bought it. And before we close this portion, let's see what the white supremacist leader had to say the day after they marched in Charlottesville.
Well, I actually have another AK in that bag over there. You lose track of your fucking guns, huh? I'd say it was worth it. We knew that we were going to meet a lot of resistance. The fact that nobody on our side died, I'd go ahead and call that points for us. The fact that none of our people killed anybody unjustly, I think, is a plus for us. And I think that we showed our rivals that we won't be cowed.
But the car that struck a protester, that's unprovoked.
That's not true, and you know that it's not true. You've seen the video. So
I've seen a video. I don't know much about it.
I understand that
Can you describe what the video appears to show?
Okay. So the video appears to show someone striking that vehicle when these animals attacked him again, and he saw no way to get away from them except to hit the gas. And sadly, because our rivals are a bunch of stupid animals who don't pay attention, they couldn't just get out of the way of his car, and some people got hurt, and that's unfortunate.
So you think it was justified?
I think it was more than justified. I can't believe the amount of restraint that our people showed out there, I think was astounding.
What do you think this means for the next alt-right protest?
I say it's going to be really tough to top, but we're up to the challenge.
Wait, why?
Why?
Tough to top? I mean, someone died.
I think that a lot more people are going to die before we're done here, frankly.
Why?
Why? Because people die every day, right? I mean,
But not like of a heart attack. I mean, violent death.
Well, people die violent deaths all the time, right? Like, this is part of the reason that we want an ethno state, right? So, like, the blacks are killing each other in staggering numbers from coast to coast. We don't really want to have a part of that anymore. And so, the fact that they resist us when we say, hey, we want a homeland, is not shocking to me, all right? These people want violence, and the right is just meeting market demand.
Okay, so you remember Richard Spencer? Yeah, well, in November of 2019, an audio tape was leaked to the press. See, apparently, old Richie was at the Charlottesville gathering as well, and the cops didn't treat him well, and he was apparently very upset about this. And in the tape that I'm about to play for you was yelling and screaming like the absolute maniac that he is. And the mask got pulled off, and we all got to see the real Richard Spencer. So hold on to your butts, because it's, surprise, surprise, real racist.
We are coming back here like a fucking 100 times. I am so mad. I am so fucking mad at these people. They don't do this to fucking me. We're gonna fucking ritualistically humiliate them. I am coming back here every fucking weekend if I have to. Like, this is never over. I win, they fucking lose. That's how the world fucking works. Little fucking kites. They get ruled by people like me. Little fucking octoroons. My ancestors fucking enslaved those pieces of fucking shit. We're gonna win. I rule the fucking world. Those pieces of shit get ruled by people like me. They look up and see a face like mine looking down at them. That's how the fucking world works. We are gonna destroy this fucking town.
That guy's pick for president is running the country right now. So, cool. That's awesome. So, just for the sake of clarity, let's go over what he said, and I can specifically explain why it's particularly immoral to you. Because apparently I have to break this all down like your children.
Little fucking kites!
Yeah, so that's a racial slur for Jews.
Little Octoroons!
In the slave societies of the Americas, a quadroon or quarteroon was a person with 1/4 African and 3/4 European ancestry. Similar classifications were octoroon for 1/8 black and hexadecaroon for 1/16 black. Governments of the time sometimes incorporated the terms in law, defining rights and restrictions. The use of such terminology is a characteristic of hypodescent, which is the practice within a society of assigning children of mixed unions to the ethnic group which the dominant group perceives as being subordinate. So, in other words, your kid is 1/8 black? Hey guys, this kid's tainted. He's 1/8 black. He's only 7/8 white. Yeah, I know, it's gross, right? Yeah. So, we're going to call him an octoroon so that everybody knows when they're around that he's an 1/8 black. And, also so that legally, if he tries to do something that, only white people are allowed to do, he can't get away with it because it's legally written on all of his paperwork and stuff, like his birth certificate and all that. We're going to put on there that he's an octoroon just so, legally. We wouldn't want him, getting something that somebody who's 8/8 white gets, he's only 7/8 white. That's not white enough. So, but anyway, I think my favorite part of the clip was
Those pieces of shit get ruled by people like me. They look up and see a face like mine looking down at them.
I mean, there's just something about the other guy laughing in the background like, I know. Something about that guy that's just makes it so much more sweet and moral, godly.
Shit get ruled by people like 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 me. They look up and see a face like mine looking down at them.
And I didn't even mention that the guy who recorded Richard Spencer saying this, yeah, he's a devout Trump supporter who used to work at this media company, which has been known to push and promote white nationalist rhetoric and ideas. As a matter of fact, that news company was co-founded by this guy, who coincidentally was also the Trump campaign's CEO and Trump's White House chief strategist. By the way, you know who coordinated with that media company to turn white nationalist propaganda into public policy? This guy. Yeah, that's right. The guy who's still, at this very moment, Trump's senior advisor for policy. Yay, white nationalism. And lastly, this guy is also a gay Catholic who was forced out of that media company in 2017 for saying that homosexual pedophilia should be okay. Man, it's so weird that godly president that was chosen by God to lead God's people, he keeps surrounding himself with people who claim to actively support blatantly and openly racist groups and ideas. That's so weird because according to him,
I can tell you I'm the least racist person there is in the world.
See, folks, there's really only a few possibilities here. He's either totally and completely a white supremacist who is actively trying to start a white supremacist takeover of the U.S., which is, of course, what the liberals believe, or he's not racist at all. And those bad racist people are tricking and manipulating him, and he's completely innocent, which means he's a giant idiot who didn't bother to check into the people he was asking to advise him while he governs the free world, which really flies so hard into the face of everything he's ever said about himself, ever. Then there's the third option. Ah, yes, the third option. The third option is that Trump and all his people have employed the strategy that Republicans have been notoriously using for a while now. You know, the one Nixon used. You know, the one Ronald Reagan used. Hence the phrase, "Make America Great Again." You know, the one that the Republican Party officially publicly apologized for in 2005, and then, of course, kept doing it anyway. So, you tell me, which is it? Is Donald Trump A, a racist, B, an idiot who got tricked by racist, which should really disqualify him from ever being president, or C, a very moral man who is using racism and far right-wing politics, as many Republicans have before him, to trick and manipulate more Americans into voting for him so he can win, which, again, is actually morally worse than actually being a racist.